Have you ever known someone who behaves like they do not need anybody at all? Someone who seems impossible to reach, very independent, as if feelings just slide right off them. Maybe you dated a person like that. Maybe you see yourself in that description. From the outside, it looks like they simply do not care. They walk away without much trouble. They stay calm when most people would feel hurt. They protect themselves by keeping space. They move through life as if emotions cannot touch them. But here is what most people fail to understand. That whole performance, that distance, those high walls they build, it is not because they feel nothing. It is because they feel everything in a very deep way. And that reality can completely change how you see avoidant people. Behind their quiet nature, behind the disappearing and the emotional shutdown, there is something they rarely admit. They only truly deeply bond with a very rare type of person. And if you have ever loved someone who seems emotionally avoidant, or if you are one yourself, this is something important to hear. It explains the moment when everything starts to shift. The moment when all that tight control begins to loosen and something real slowly appears. Most people never get to see that side. They only meet the mask, the defense, the version that keeps everyone at a safe distance. But the few who reach past those walls, the ones who somehow connect beyond the fear, hold a place in that person's heart that cannot be replaced. So stay with this idea. By the end, you may see avoidance in a way you never did before. And if you have ever wondered whether your connection with someone like that was real, you might finally understand the answer. One of the biggest lies people repeat to themselves is this simple line: I do not need anyone. They say it like it proves strength, like it is an achievement, as if needing love makes a person weak. You notice this often with avoidant types. They wear independence like armor. They convince themselves they are completely fine alone, that relying on others is risky, that emotional closeness is optional, and that keeping people at a distance is safer than being hurt again. If you have ever tried to love someone like that, you know how painful it feels. It can seem like you never fully reach them, no matter how much care you show. You might sit right next to them and still feel far away. They talk with you, spend time near you, and still there is a sense that a part of them stays locked up. But what many people do not realize is this: that independence they hold onto so tightly is not true power. It is not pure confidence. It is not that they truly do not need others. It is something they learned in order to survive. It is a protective system built early in life, when needing someone led to letdown, when opening their heart brought pain, when love did not feel safe. They learned that depending on people could lead to deep hurt, so they trained themselves not to depend at all. That pattern does not disappear just because they grow older. It quietly follows them into adult life. It appears in their relationships, in arguments, in how they step back, in how they show love. Even though they repeat the story, I am fine alone, I do not need anyone, deep inside they cannot erase a basic human truth. Every one of us, no matter our style of attachment, avoidant, anxious, or secure, is made for closeness. We are built to connect. When you remove all the fear, all the old beliefs, and all the defenses, even the most distant avoidant person still longs for connection. They just do not know how to say it. Sometimes they are not even aware of it themselves. Look carefully at how avoidant people act. They appear strong. They seem calm. They know how to look unaffected. But notice what happens when emotions grow intense. They shut down. When feelings come up, they change topics. When closeness increases, they step back. When commitment is discussed, they suddenly need space. To others, this looks like coldness or lack of care. But that is not the real story. Underneath, there is fear. It is not that they feel nothing. It is that they are afraid of being fully seen. Here is the part many miss. They want love just as much as anyone else. They desire it, they long for it, but when they begin to feel it, fear rises because love requires openness, and openness carries risk. The risk of being rejected, losing someone, being disappointed, or getting hurt again. So instead of moving closer, they retreat, they pull away, they raise their walls even higher. And the world often mistakes this for strength. From the outside, it looks like they are perfectly happy alone, like they have mastered being by themselves, like they do not need anyone at all. But deep inside, they are just as hungry for love as everyone else. That is why the idea that avoidants do not care is a myth. The belief that they are immune to connection, that they do not feel deeply, that they are too independent to love, is simply wrong. They want love strongly, they just struggle to handle it when it finally appears. If you have ever been close to one, you have probably seen the contradiction. One moment, they open up, they share something honest, they laugh freely, they soften, they let you see a piece of their heart. And just when you think you are truly connecting, something shifts. They go quiet. They become distant. It feels confusing. You start asking yourself if any of it was real. The answer is yes. That warm moment, that real laugh, that sense of closeness, that was the true part of them. The cold distance that came after is not the truth of who they are. It is fear. It is their old survival system turning back on. They do not step away because they do not care. They step away because caring scares them deeply. Here is something even deeper. Avoidants spend much of their lives trying to escape their need for closeness. They run from it. They deny it. They hide it. But running does not remove it. It only pushes it down. And emotions that are pushed down do not vanish. They stay. They appear in other forms, in working too much, in constant distraction, in always staying busy, in chasing success, in looking for worth through achievements instead of intimacy. They say they are fine alone, but late at night, when everything is quiet, there can be an emptiness they cannot explain. The few people who truly know them can feel that emptiness. They sense the loneliness the avoidant does not want to name. What is interesting is that no matter how much avoidants try to avoid deep emotional bonds, sometimes they meet someone they cannot easily shut out. It does not happen often, but once in a while they meet a person whose presence feels safe. Someone who does not push, does not chase, but simply stays. Calm, steady, real. And that is when something inside begins to change. They may not understand it, but something softens. For the first time in a long while, maybe in years, they feel what it is like to truly connect. And because this experience is so rare for them, it stays in their memory. They might not say it mattered. They might act like it was nothing special. But deep down, they do not forget it. So when people talk about avoidance as if they are lone wolves or emotionally numb, they are only seeing the surface. That is the story avoidants tell themselves to survive. The deeper truth is simple. They want what everyone wants: to be loved, to be understood, to feel safe near someone. They just do not know how to let it happen without fear taking control. They have built their identity around self-reliance for so long that opening up feels like breaking a rule they have always followed. And here is the part most people never notice. The same independence that makes them seem distant is also what makes their real connection so powerful. When someone who promised themselves they would never need anyone finally allows even a little need, it is life-changing. When someone who has spent years running finally pauses and lets another person stay, that bond carries deep meaning. It is stronger because it was not easy. It is deeper because it took courage to allow it. That kind of connection stays with them, even if they pretend it does not. It shapes them quietly, even if they never speak about it. It becomes part of them in ways they cannot fully explain. So the next time you see someone pulling back, going quiet, acting cold or hard to reach, remember this: it is not because they do not need love. It is because they are afraid of it. It is not emptiness. It is fear. Fear of being seen, fear of being hurt, fear of being open enough to need someone. When you understand that, when you stop seeing their distance as rejection and start seeing it as protection, your view changes. You stop taking their withdrawal so personally. You begin to notice the scared part hidden behind the adult behavior. And maybe you learn to meet them with understanding instead of chasing, with patience instead of pressure. Because avoidants do not need to be repaired like something broken. They need to feel safe enough to remain. They need to understand that closeness does not always mean hurt, that love does not always end in losing someone, and that needing another person does not make them weak. It makes them human. And deep down, that is what every avoidant secretly wishes was true. It is not real independence. It is defense. They are not created differently from everyone else. They have simply learned to wear emotional armor. And beneath that armor lives the same human truth we all carry. The need for connection, the hope to be loved, and the longing to be seen and understood. They may hide that truth. They may struggle against it, but it never truly fades away until they meet that one person who makes it feel safe enough to lower their guard. They will keep acting like they do not need anyone, but inside they do. They always did, and they always will. The reality about avoidant people is that most of the world never truly knows who they are. Others only meet the version of them that stays protected behind emotional barriers. You can spend months or even years with someone like this and still feel like an outsider in their inner world. It is confusing and painful, and it makes you doubt yourself. You begin to think, maybe I'm not enough, maybe I am doing something wrong. But what if the issue is not you? What if avoidants keep people at a distance, not because others lack value, but because in their mind closeness feels like danger? Still, somewhere inside all that self-protection, there is always an exception. It does not happen often, but when it does, it changes everything. Every avoidant person, no matter how guarded or emotionally distant, has the ability to meet someone who somehow slips past the cracks in their defenses. And it is not because that person tried harder, begged for affection, or worked to earn their attention. In fact, those actions usually make avoidants run even faster. The reason that one person gets through is simple. They do not set off the alarm inside. They do not trigger panic. They do not corner the avoidant emotionally. They create a totally different experience, one that feels calm enough, safe enough, and steady enough for the avoidant to stop running away. Think of it this way. If someone has been burned before, they will do anything to stay away from fire. But imagine that for the first time, they feel warmth without pain. Something deep inside begins to change. They realize heat does not always have to burn. That rare person represents that feeling to an avoidant. It is not that they heal them in one day or break down every wall at once. It is that they show up in a way that does not scare them. They bring comfort without pressure, love without suffocation, honesty without drama. And that mixture, steady, calm, and genuine, feels completely new to the avoidant. It is what slowly starts to soften their armor. Here is the strange part. Most people who fall for an avoidant do the opposite of what truly helps. They chase. They question everything. They ask for reassurance again and again. They beg for closeness. And it makes sense. When you give love, you want to receive it back. But to an avoidant, that behavior feels threatening. It confirms their biggest fear, that intimacy is overwhelming, heavy, and unsafe. But that rare person does not fall into that pattern. They do not get caught in the chase and pull away cycle. They stay grounded. They offer care, but they do not demand it in return. They create space without disappearing. And for the first time, the avoidant does not feel trapped. This is not about being passive either. It is not about pretending the distance does not hurt or acting like the coldness is fine. It is about being real and balanced. That rare person simply shows, this is who I am, this is how I show up. I am not going to chase you, but I am not vanishing either. That balance between presence and boundaries creates something the avoidant has probably never experienced before. And when that kind of energy appears, something powerful begins to happen. The walls that once felt impossible to move begin to lower, not all at once, but slowly and gently. You notice it in small moments first. Maybe they share a little detail about their day. Maybe they laugh more openly. Maybe they touch your hand and let it stay there just a second longer. These are not random actions. They are signs that trust is quietly growing, and if you are that rare person, you might not even realize how much you are affecting them, because avoidants do not usually say it out loud. They do not announce, "I am starting to trust you." But you will sense it. You will feel the quiet softening, the warmth breaking through their cool surface. Make no mistake, this is not easy for them. Every instinct inside is shouting, "Pull back, stay safe, do not do this." Because opening up is exactly what they have spent their life avoiding. It feels terrifying, like handing someone the keys to their most delicate feelings. But they do it anyway, not because they stopped being avoidant, but because something about this person feels worth the risk. And that is why this kind of connection is rare. It does not happen with everyone. You can be kind, patient, loving, and still never reach that deep place inside them. It is not about trying harder. It is about energy. It is about whether you carry the kind of calm that quiets their fears instead of feeding them. When that rare person appears, the avoidant feels it. Maybe not clearly, maybe not in words, but deep inside, they know this one feels different. At first, they may resist it. They will test it. They will come close, then step back, then come close again. It is their silent way of asking, "Is this safe? Will you still be here if I step away?" And when that rare person remains steady, not chasing, not running, just consistent, the avoidant slowly begins to believe safety might be real. And once that belief starts to grow, everything begins to shift. It does not mean they suddenly become perfect. They still struggle. They still withdraw sometimes. But something deep inside has changed. They have learned they can let someone close without losing themselves. They have discovered that love does not always lead to chaos. They have realized that connection does not have to hurt. And once that door opens, it never fully shuts again. The bond, even if it is imperfect or messy, remains. It becomes part of who they are. The beauty of this is that it is not about big speeches or dramatic scenes. It is about the quiet consistency of trust forming over time. It is about presence that does not push, love that does not trap, and honesty that does not wound. When an avoidant meets that one person who brings this balance, it changes them forever, because for the first time, they stop running away. That is the transformation people rarely talk about. Many assume avoidants are hopeless, that they will always choose distance over closeness. But the truth is, they are waiting for that one person who feels steady enough, kind enough, and safe enough to help them believe in connection again. When they meet that person and finally let them in, it is not temporary. It is not just attraction or curiosity. It becomes one of the deepest emotional bonds they will ever know. Their walls may seem impossible to break. Their silence may feel endless. The distance may look permanent. But the truth is, it only takes one person showing up differently for all of that to begin changing. The fortress slowly falls piece by piece, because no matter how high they build those walls, even avoidants are searching for the one person who makes them stop running. When an avoidant finally bonds, it is never casual. It is not just another relationship or a short phase. For them, it is everything, because it is the very thing they feared most. When they finally choose it, it is lasting. They do not open that door again and again. They do not give that level of trust easily. You have to understand, avoidants build walls to survive. They master distance. They learn to protect their heart by keeping others out. So when they finally lower those walls, it is not small. It is a huge risk. It feels like handing someone the most fragile part of themselves. But when they do, it is because they found someone who feels truly safe. That bond goes deep. It stays with them. People think avoidants can just walk away without feeling anything. And yes, they might leave physically. They might go quiet or pull back. But emotionally, once they have bonded, they never fully let go. They cannot. That connection becomes part of their inner world. No matter how far they go or how long the silence lasts, they still carry it inside. It is not about obsession or control. It is about permanence. Once an avoidant bonds in a real way, it rewires something within them. It changes how they understand closeness from that point forward. And here is what makes it so powerful. That bond is not built only on attraction or convenience. It is built on safety. It is built on the peace they felt when they finally stopped running. That experience leaves a deep mark they can never erase. It becomes proof that closeness can be gentle, that love can feel calm, and that connection does not always lead to pain. And once they know that feeling is possible, a part of them will always carry it, no matter where life takes them. They can meet other people, begin new relationships, but if you were the one who gave them that feeling of safety, nothing after you will ever feel quite the same. They may try to rebuild it, but they cannot, because it was never only about who you were. It was about how you showed up in a way that touched their deepest fears without waking them up. That kind of connection does not happen twice. It is one of those once-in-a-lifetime bonds, but do not misunderstand it. It does not mean everything suddenly becomes perfect. They may still struggle. They may still pull back from time to time, because growth for them is slow and takes patience. But if you have been that person who made them feel safe enough to stop hiding, you have left a mark that never fades. They may still feel the need to protect themselves sometimes. Yet under all of that, the bond is still there. It does not disappear because of arguments. It does not weaken with distance. It does not vanish when life becomes hard. That connection becomes a part of who they are now. And that is why, if you have ever been that person for an avoidant, you might feel confused when they push you away. You may ask yourself how they could retreat if the bond was real. You might wonder if any of it truly mattered. But here is the truth. You cannot measure the strength of their bond by how they behave in moments of fear. You have to look at the bigger picture, because even if they pull away, even if they hide, even if they try to tell themselves it was not real, they always return to that quiet inner truth. It was real. It still is. It always will be. The rare person who forms a true bond with an avoidant becomes their point of reference. Every future connection is quietly compared to that one bond that broke through the walls. Most people will never reach that depth, not because they are not good enough, but because the avoidant cannot easily rebuild that level of trust. It is not about replacing you. It is about the fact that once they have felt true safety with someone, they cannot pretend they never felt it. They cannot erase that memory. That is why that bond lasts for life. There is something almost sacred about it. Imagine spending years guarding yourself from love, avoiding vulnerability, keeping everyone at a safe distance. Then imagine meeting someone who changes that forever. That is not just another relationship. That is a turning point in a whole life. Avoidants do not bond lightly, and when they finally do, it is lasting, because it is not only about the other person, it is about them breaking their own walls to let someone in. That change cannot simply be undone. If you have ever been that rare person, you might not even realize what you did. You may think you were just being yourself, that you did nothing special. But to them, you were the exception. You showed them that closeness does not always lead to pain. Because of that, you hold a place in their life that no one else can take. Avoidants do not truly forget. They may try to move forward and seem fine. They may look detached on the outside, but quietly they carry that bond inside them for years. Once they have trusted someone enough to form that bond, it becomes part of them. It is no longer a simple choice. So if you have ever wondered whether you mattered, whether your connection with an avoidant was real, or whether you imagined it all, hear this clearly. It was real. It was deeper than you knew. It was lasting. They may never say it out loud. They may never show it in obvious ways, but inside they know. They know you broke through the walls. They know you gave them a sense of safety, and they know that bond will stay with them for life. Most people do not understand this about avoidance. Their love does not look like everyone else's. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not shown through endless words or big gestures. But when it is real, when they finally allow it, it becomes the deepest and most steady bond they will ever form. It may not be easy to see on the surface, but it lives inside them forever. Here is the part that is hardest for many to accept. Most people will never see this side of an avoidant. They will never be the one who breaks through. They will never hold that lasting place, and it is not because they are unlovable or unworthy. It is because avoidants simply do not allow most people close enough to build that level of trust. That bond is the exception, not the normal pattern. For most who connect with an avoidant, they remain distant, guarded, and emotionally far away. If you have loved an avoidant but never felt them truly open up, it can make you feel like you were not enough. But the truth is not about your value, it is about their fear. Avoidants enter relationships partly closed. They expect to be disappointed. They believe relying on someone else is risky. So no matter how much love you give, most of the time it does not go deep. It is like pouring water on stone. The surface becomes wet, but nothing goes inside. Not because you are lacking, but because the stone is not open to absorb. The avoidant has protected themselves for so long that it takes something very rare to break through. That is why most people never see the deeply bonded side. They only get the surface version. Charming but distant, fun but emotionally unavailable. Someone who seems interested but still holds back. It is frustrating because you can feel there is something deeper. You sense it, but no matter how hard you try, you cannot reach it. That leaves people doubting themselves, thinking maybe they were not special. But it is not about being special, it is about safety. Safety is the key that opens the door for an avoidant. Most people react to distance by chasing, asking more questions, trying harder. That kind of closeness feels overwhelming to an avoidant. It confirms every fear they carry. Intimacy feels like pressure. Closeness feels dangerous. Letting someone in feels like losing independence. So they pull away even more. Only a rare person makes it through. Not because they are better, but because they respond differently. They do not chase. They do not pressure. They do not beg. They stay steady. By doing this, they create the one environment an avoidant has never known before. A place where connection does not mean losing themselves. That changes everything. Most people do not know how to stay calm without overgiving. They do not know how to remain present without pushing. They do not know how to keep boundaries without walking away completely. That is why the lifelong bond of an avoidant is so rare. It is like a lock and a key. There are millions of locks, but only one key truly fits. Until the avoidant meets that key, they remain closed. For most people who meet an avoidant, the deep bond never forms. The avoidant may smile, connect on the surface, maybe even share closeness for a while, but the walls stay in place. Those walls are exhausting for the other person. You give your heart to someone who never fully meets you, and it hurts deeply. You start to question yourself, but their inability to bond is not about your worth. It is about the prison they built to survive. If you were the rare person who broke through, it changes everything. Most people never see an avoidant laugh freely, share fears openly, or love without holding back. Most never feel that sense of permanence. If you were the one who broke through, understand this. It was not just another relationship. It was their once-in-a-lifetime bond. It was the moment their story about love changed. That is why they will never truly forget you. Even if they leave, even if they run, even if they try to replace you, it will not work in the same way. Most people will only ever know the surface version, but you saw the real one. You held the bond they only give once. That is why you will always have a place in their life that no one else can touch. Avoidants struggle with this too. They know they cannot bond easily. They know they have only fully let one person in. That realization can scare them. It can make them feel different, like maybe they cannot love as easily as others. But they are not broken. They are careful, shaped to protect themselves. When they do bond, it is not weak. It is unbreakable. But because it is so rare, many avoidants go through life without fully opening to more than one person. That is the sad part. So many people love them and never get past the walls. So many walk away thinking they failed. But when the bond truly happens, it is for life. So if you loved an avoidant and never broke through, do not believe it means you were not enough. You were enough. They just could not let you in. And if you were the one who did break through, never make it small in your mind. Even if they did not say it, even if they could not show it clearly, you became the exception to every rule they lived by. That is something they will carry forever. And to the avoidant who hears this, you are not broken. You are not unable to love. You are not meant to be alone. But stop hiding behind the story of independence. Deep inside, you want connection just like everyone else. The longer you pretend you do not, the more you miss the most important part of life, real and deep connection. Yes, it may only happen once, but if it does, if you allow it, that one bond can change everything. That is why avoidants bond for life with that one rare person who becomes their safe place, their turning point, and the living proof that love does not always mean pain.